What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Riders. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast / video series, and I am your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and joining me, as always, for this intrepid adventure is my good friend, Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
It's going wonderful, Josh.
Toby, I have some important queries for you, pertaining to Halloween.
Let's hear it.
And this is maybe unique to my particular area, but it is eating me alive inside, and I need to figure out if it's true across the country or if it's a weird phenomenon just for me. But okay, do you remember last year where
No.
it was a long time ago? Everybody bought those like giant 12-foot skeletons, and every house had a giant 12-foot skeleton, and it was all over the internet, and it was like the biggest, hottest thing around Halloween. Was that on your radar?
I believe they're 20-foot skeletons. They
Whatever.
are
Gigantic
the
skeletons.
wildest things. My next door neighbor has one next to his house, and the one local website, much like they do, go through the pretty Christmas lights, Google Maps of like these are the houses that really deck themselves out.
They map out the tall skeletons.
We have a 20-foot skelly map, where if you want to go for a tour of all the houses with skellies and quote unquote other Halloween decorations, you're more than welcome to.
Okay, that's actually pretty awesome. So my thing with those. So last year they blew up real big, and it felt like I saw 100 of them. Like just in the month of October, just driving around my normal routines, I feel like I saw like at least 100 houses that had a giant ass skeleton. This year, I'm expecting to see all those houses put them back out, and I've probably only seen one, maybe two giant skeletons so far, and I have no freaking clue what happened to the rest of them. Like, these people all bought these. You spent hundreds of dollars on a giant skeleton. Why are you not putting it back out? What did you do with it? Did it fall apart? Did you sell it? Were you just renting it before? Like, where did they go? I don't understand. It's eating me alive.
So you're right. They are 12 foot. There's also like fancier ones that were 20. I guess that's what I'm thinking of. They weren't that expensive. So that's why I think everyone jumped on the trend. And I would assume you just keep it in the basement with everything else.
Were they not like $300? I thought they were like $300.
I thought they were super cheap at Home Depot, to be honest with you.
I think that they were like $300 at Home Depot, which is like, it's like, you know, a thing that you could spend, but like that is an amount of money you would expect to get maybe more than one Halloween's use out of, I would think. But like the sheer drop off that I have seen this year in giant skeletons is it's $2.99 at Home Depot is what they are. I just can't believe that I haven't seen any when last year they were almost like ubiquitous. It was almost like if a house decorated for Halloween, they were going to have one of these. And this year it's like they're just nowhere to be found. So I think somewhere there's like a giant trash pile that just has hundreds of 12-foot skeletons.
It's like the Atari dumpster.
Right. I think that's what happened. That's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. Like, what's the conspiracy here? Where is the Atari landfill of ET cartridges?
So looking at the 2023 12-foot tall skelly map in my local area, I would say if I went 20 miles north, south, east, west, so that's a 20-mile radius, or is that a 40-mile radius?
Wait,
like if I'm in the middle and I go 20 miles east and 20 miles west,
okay, so that would be a 20-mile radius, but a 40-mile diameter. Okay. Yeah.
So if I go in like I'll call a 20-mile radius around my house, from a quick scan of this map, I would say there are 57 skeletons marked off that I could go visit.
Okay, so it's more of like a uniquely here thing that people just didn't put them out again. Like, it sounds like there's just as many around you as there were maybe last year, but like for some reason, right here, right around me, everyone got rid of them.
So there was one house in one smaller city nearby mine that had a giant skeleton forever before it was cool. They can literally say we had this before it was cool. Yeah. But them and a mix of like 2 or 3 other houses I can think of now. Theirs is up 24/7, 365.
Hell yeah!
And they have costumes for every occasion.
Okay,
like,
there was
Easter
a house
has
near
the
me
Easter Bunny, Christmas. There's a Santa adjacent dress code, etc.
There was definitely a house near me that ran with it for a long time. They eventually took it down, but they definitely ran it through Christmas, and they did like the Thanksgiving costume and the Christmas costume and stuff like that, which I really appreciated. Like if you're gonna spend $300 on a giant skeleton, at least get your money's worth for sure.
We have like, and
That's
even like the one of the, I'm gonna use the word funny. It's not funny. It's like I see it and go, that's pretty good. Over summer, the one had a bikini on, and
oh
that made me
nice.
that made me politely chuckle every time I drove by. But that's about the extent they can get from me out of these situations.
Listen, it might be because I am an old man homeowner now, but I am very here for goofy skeleton humor. uh yeah, I used to run used to run an Instagram account for a plastic skeleton where we would pose him in funny situations doing funny things with funny captions, and yeah, it's right in my alley.
You're a weird guy.
I am a weird guy. Thanks for noticing.
My gotcha is Skelly dress and humor.
There's some really good skeleton puns on the Instagram account, and our skeleton was a glow in the dark skeleton too, so it was extra fun.
That's pretty legit.
Yeah, his name was Phil.
Is it
It,
short for anything? Is that part of a pun?
short for phalanges.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, yeah.
I can hear you smiling while you tell me this story. I'm just like, I know he's having a good time. I'm just like, yeah, all right, Josh, go on. I can feel the smiles through the microphones.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Or no, you know what? It's not a smile. It's self-satisfaction. Because when you started telling that joke, as soon as I asked the question of is it short for something, I could feel you light up. And you're like, phalanges.
I'm glad you properly identified it as self-satisfaction. You're right. It's worse than a smile. It's not just a smile. It's self-satisfaction. That's exactly right.
If it makes you feel any better with your dumb phalanges joke, I was just on what we call vacation. And
that makes it sound so sinister. Okay.
And one of the things we did was you basically ride, it's almost like a little train cart, but it's electric that you pedal by yourself. I can't think of like the proper name for it. But if you think of like the old mining carts that you used to see people like pump the handles up and down to go.
Oh yeah.
So they have those, but it's a 2-person bike of sorts where the wheels are still like actual rail car wheels, and you sit on and you pedal your little legs, and the rail
Nice.
cart goes.
I like it.
And it's also electric. So like when you start
Oh,
getting lazy, you just press the little throttle and you go.
perfect.
So we were riding them through the woods on vacation, and we were talking about it, and it was decided that everyone should have a little like Bluetooth speaker or a communication system between all the carts, because you go in like a pack. And we were saying like, oh, the hosts or the tour guides or whatever should tell jokes the whole time, or like give summaries, like look to your right and you'll see the blah 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 river, and you look to the left and you'll see a torn down building. So then I was like, if they had told jokes the entire time, I would turn off the speaker. Like I would get irritated, they wouldn't shut up with all the horrible jokes.
You'd be over it.
I would be over it. So we were laughing about it, and then I was like, yeah, it'd just be like horrible train puns the whole time. So then I literally was sitting in this dumb little train car. It was fun. I'm going to call it a dumb train car though. I was sitting in the train car and I was like, think of all the bad puns you could think of. So I was sitting there thinking as hard as possible, and I was coming up with as many dumb train pun jokes that I could think of just from my own brain while riding this car. And this is right along the vibe of your story. But I would tell the jokes then, and I had this smug satisfaction of like, that was pretty good. Good job, Toby.
You and me are the same person. Very, very truly. Yeah.
Because, for example, we were going, and I was sorry, because there's not many options for trains, like without getting like reusing the same joke all over and over again,
Sure.
or making it dirty. I was like, I need to think of like family friendly, happy
Yeah.
jokes.
Right.
So the two I can easily think of again. I was like, what does a train and an orchestra have in common? And I was like, they both have conductors. Ah! And I was like, sit there and giggle because I thought it was funny.
Perfect.
And then the other one was, what does a train say when it sneezes? And it was a choo-choo. And then I started laughing hysterically again. And by the same face as you, like my face probably lit up, and I was just
I'm
like
sure.
I was so happy with myself of like freestyling these in my head as this was going.
So self-satisfied. Well, I do things like this sometimes, like in our house, and it ends up just like groans is what I get back. Just like, oh, he's at it again. Here we go. That's great. I would appreciate your puns. I appreciated those two. Those were great. I'm here for them.
But it wasn't like I'm not good enough. Like there's some people that can do like rapid fire. Like
You had to think
if you give
about
them a
them.
topic, they're like, oh, here's 20 jokes in a row. Like what about this? What about this? Like I would sit there and just pedal for 2 or 3 minutes and then go, a choo choo, and then I'd like sit there and like giggle. And then like ride for another 5 minutes because like I was literally just sitting there thinking as hard as possible of like what more can I come up with while we're doing this?
Just racking your brain. That's amazing. That's
just
great.
tracking my brain. Train jokes, everybody.
Let's jump into some emails and see if anyone else has some jokes instead, Toby.
Let's do it.
We got a lot of emails this week.
This podcast's off the rails already.
It always is off the rails. I don't even know if you're allowed to call that one a pun since we always say it goes off the rails.
It'd be more interesting if one was actually like on the rails. If it was just like a calm professional podcast.
That'd be so weird if we just started a podcast and we're like, so what do you think about Kamen Rider Gotchard this week? And that was like the very first thing I said to you. You'd be so weirded out. But no,
I don't think we could do it. Like if we said like we're shooting for this normal 60 minutes.
Yeah.
There's no way that I think you and I could go a full 60 without it eventually turning into bullshit again.
No, there's no way. So there's a saying around our house now, which I realized tonight as I said it
goes,
out loud.
Dad, shut up.
We know that too. But no, on the drive home tonight, I was ranting about the skeletons and where the giant skeletons went, and we pulled into the driveway, and I'm like, I got to talk to Toby about this. So there's just some things I got to store up until we get to a podcast, so I wouldn't be able to not let them out in the middle of a show. That's just not how I'm built. Anyway, jumping into emails, our first email comes in from Shade. Shade says, surprisingly, I don't have any trivia or questions to answer this week. I do like this week's episode. This is referring to last week's episode, I believe. I do like this week's episode, though. The wrestling thing was cool, and I kind of want a Wrestler G card now. See, that's where I landed on this too, Shade. I don't know that I want the whole belt this year. But I did want a card. I wanted a Wrestler G card pretty bad, and I did look it up, and you can get like a crazy foil Wrestler G. It might be worth hunting one of those down. Shade says, "How much do you want to bet that Wrestler G action figures are going to be on Premium Bandai?" Oh my god, probably are. Yeah.
Are you gonna buy one? Will you buy that?
I would strongly consider, like, if they came out with a Wrestler G action figure, I would strongly consider getting one. Yeah.
What if someone just made an Etsy one?
That's not. I don't care if someone makes an Etsy one. I don't want it.
So you don't want a custom Wrestler G figure. You just want a Wrestler G figure.
Like I would think that a custom one would be cool, but it wouldn't be like a driving force to get it. If that makes sense. Like if it's official and I can get an official one. Then I'm more into that. If someone on Etsy makes it and it looks cool, I'm gonna look at it and say like, oh, that's really awesome. Someone made that, but I'm not gonna like, go out of my way to acquire it.
I gotcha.
Shade then sends along some cool images. First up, the Christmas Chemi cards or special Chemi cards coming for Christmas. And Shade says, now that you've seen X8, I assume you'll always flash back to that certain moment whenever Christmas comes around. Yeah. If you haven't seen X8, which we are working our way through it right now, Christmas is a traumatizing time come X8. It is both the best episode and a traumatizing one for sure. But Toby, if you were curious about what the Chemi cards for Christmas are, there is Santa Claus on one side, which is just Hopper 1 dressed up like Santa, which is very good. And the other one is Steamliner with a Rudolph nose and antlers on to make him Rudolph.
This is adorable already.
That one is named Tona Railliner. I don't know what the Tona must be like Japanese for Rudolph or something. I don't know. But yes, it is. It is Hopper 1 and Steamliner dressed up for Christmas, and the rider helmet that the cards form when they come together has Rudolph antlers and a Santa beard on. It's amazing.
Tona in Japanese, at least if it's a name, means soar, fly, glide.
Oh, okay,
So maybe
got it.
because he's going to fly like Rudolph, it's Tona Steamliner or Steam whatever instead of just.
Yeah, the Tona rail liner because he's flying through the air like Rudolph. That makes perfect sense. Look at us figuring things out.
Thank you, Google.
and Google. Also, we talked about it, the card categories. So the category for these two cards is a Christmas tree.
Does that count as part of the 10 or no?
I don't think that it does. I think that's a separate thing.
Josh, just so you know, a plain Wrestler G is like $2, $3, $4.
Okay.
But the foil parallel Wrestler G is $40.
Okay. I'm probably not gonna spend $40 on a card, but I might spend $2 just to get one. That seems good. Yeah. And then Shade sends along some other funny images. One is when Wrestler G and Kamen Rider Gotchard kind of like form an alliance. It looks exactly like that meme of the two buff guys kind of like grasping arms. Like there's the white guy and the black guy, and they're like forming a union. You know what I'm talking about? That meme?
I do know that meme.
Yeah, it looks like that. And then Shade sends along some fan art, mixing in the Bujin sword from Kamen Rider Geats, which is very cool looking, and sends a closer look at the gun, the bullet shoujo gun, the wild form gun that we shot at the Yakuza. And it just it looks like a gun. It looks like a looks like a gun with
It
butterfly
looks
wings.
like a gun.
Yeah. And then finally, Shade sends on a picture of Kudo, quote, if she was American, which is a behind the scenes photo where she's just holding up 2 pistols.
I was hoping she was. That's perfect. Because when you started saying, I was going to try to preempt you. He said, holding up, and I was going to make a joke, and I was going to say, it better be guns, and it was guns.
It's so guns. Speaking of which, do we have any updates on.
I was just going to cut you off the same exact way.
Perfect. Take it away.
The short version of the weekly gun update is my 91-year-old now grandmother told our lawyer that she thought there was a pistol under her mattress that she slept on. She said in front of the lawyer she wanted my uncle to throw the gun in the river as part of her will. I asked my uncle about it recently. Now we're up to date. I asked my uncle about it. He says he has no idea where it is. And he said, I never would have thrown it in the river. That seems ridiculous.
Good.
So I was like, okay, I'm glad we're on the same page. And he said he remembered seeing it 6 months ago.
Oh, so he knows that it did exist.
He knows it did exist. He did see it, but it is not there. It is still not there. He said, so 6 months ago would have been way after the other parts of this conversation. So it's definitely missing. He said, ask one of the cousins. They probably know where it is. I said the cousins are the ones that told me that she had it, and they didn't take it because they all live in different states. So the gun at this point is literally missing. She thinks it's still under the mattress. It's not. I asked my dad who stays with her. He has no idea where it is. And his statement was, people steal my shit out of here too and take it. So I have no idea. People just do things here. So now we have a missing registered firearm to my grandmother.
Cool.
Somewhere in the ethers of my state.
Potentially worst case scenario here. I mean, not worst case, but not a good outcome here. Wow. Yeah, I was thinking that maybe like the gun didn't exist or hadn't existed for a long time or something, but no, it was it was there, and now missing. Is there a chance that Grandma is lying and she threw it in the river?
I don't know how she would have gotten to the river to do it, but she could have.
I'm just saying, maybe she's got the means. I don't know.
So this will probably be the last gun update, unless somehow it shows up in the house at some point.
Yeah,
but this is going to be a great mystery for everybody.
Like at this point, kind of hoping it's the last gun update, right? Because otherwise, it's just like you're going to open a cupboard somewhere and there's going to be a gun hanging out.
I'd probably laugh. It'd probably be okay, but yeah.
Nice.
Missing to the world. Now we can continue with emails.
All right, well, that's your gun minute. Our next email comes in from I believe new emailer Jamie Lee, and
hello Jamie Lee.
Hello Jamie Lee. Jamie Lee says, so a few neat bits of trivia about Gotchard. We talked about the jobs, right? We talked about the categories of cards. We talked about one of them being jobs, and we're kind of figuring out like what counts as a job. And Jamie Lee points out, which I didn't think about this angle, it's essentially the Japanese equivalent for a class, like in an RPG, which they even use the term job in one of the Final Fantasies, maybe multiple, I know.
The
So
newer bad ones. I feel like they went like because 9 still had roles. Like Vivi was still mage and things like that. I feel
gotcha.
like X or 11 or X2 or 12 or one of them changed it to the job system at some point. I don't know if it's still that, but definitely switch at some point to like just spec people out the way you want to. It doesn't matter who they want to be.
Yeah. So that's those two things, I guess, are closely linked then in in Japanese in the
All right,
parlance.
that works.
Yeah. Let's see. Jamie also is telling us that Valverad's suit was said pre-release to have been made by Spanner himself, which is
Ooh.
an interesting angle of that. Like, which I guess makes a lot of sense, right? If you're an alchemist, you can make yourself cool like mech armor.
Just do whatever you want to. Like
Yeah.
if you can decide what you want to be, the sky's really the limit.
I agree. I agree. I like that. Thanks for that little tidbit. Jimmy Lee also says Gotchard's forms aren't actually suits. He's physically changing into that form, unlike Valverad, who is a suit. Like, I get it, but like I'm still gonna call him suits. I'm always gonna call it a Kamen Rider suit. I know it's like Super Sentai, where like it's probably closer to like a Venom symbiote than it is a suit, but I'm still gonna say suit. Just
If they
that's
wanted it to be his natural form, they would have done this like Black Sun and made the grasshopper arms grow out of his back.
Totally. If you wanted me to think that it was part of his natural form, I would see more dick in it. That's what I'm saying. Like, if I can't see like at least a bulge, then it's a suit. Uh, or the grasshopper arms, like you said.
we we should have stopped the podcast now.
We should have stopped it a long time ago. And then finally, Jamie Lee says, "I actually love that Ant Wrestler forms Rider Kick is an Irish whip into dropkick. Very fitting for a wrestling form, in my opinion." Yeah, everything about that episode was so perfect as far as like the wrestling stuff goes. Like, they did such a good job of the like struggling Jim has a star wrestler thing, which is like so stereotypical. The wrestling match and moves that they did was great. The training montage was like perfect wrestling. Yeah, and then the Irish whip into dropkick was just chef's kiss, just the perfect, the perfect little cherry on top. Very cool. Jess, thanks for that email. Next email comes in from Dave. Dave says, "Hi, newish listener here. I waited a few weeks to see if anyone else would write in, and no one did. So I thought I'd
Hi, newish
explain."
listener.
Hi. So I thought I'd explain why Renge, who is the other student who sometimes dresses weird, we pointed out that she was wearing a takoyaki hat the first time we saw her. So Dave is here to explain why she was introduced wearing the takoyaki hat and tiger outfit, since we were wondering a few episodes back. I am so excited for this explanation. Dave says, in universe, the character is supposed to be from the Kansai region of Japan. While this might not be obvious to Western viewers who didn't read the character bios from the lead up to the show,
I did
or
not.
I did not. I didn't read those. Or are massive weebs like myself, the first telltale sign is the way she speaks. Renge uses Kasai Ben, which is a sort of regional accent of Japanese. In Japanese media, the characters who use Kasai Ben are usually depicted as a bit more folksy, often having come from the countryside or a small town. This is
Wait,
often.
this is
Go
from
ahead.
Yakuza.
Really?
There's one of them. Someone's from that city, that area. I'm not gonna try to say it because I'm gonna fuck it up. But they make it's during one of the dumb dating things. I think they're like, "Oh, I'm from Kansai or whatever the hell it's called.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I speak different. Huh? Isn't that cute? Isn't that charming?" And that's a real country bumpkin vibe. So you know what? Yakuza again. Everything's
Okay.
Yakuza and everything's Kingdom Hearts. I'm back
Perfect.
in.
Apparently, this Kansai Ben is often transliterated as having a Southern or Texan accent, since the cultural connotation for Americans is somewhat similar. Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, I have seen that they have They've done that a little bit with her speech where she does like the y'all thing a little bit. So that makes
She
sense.
says, "Hey, fellas are out to catch some chemis."
Kind of, yeah. I'm going to catch some chemis, I am. Uh, that's very, very interesting. Thank you. Thank you for that little tidbit. And then David continues. The biggest city in the Kansai region is Osaka, which is famous for its takoyaki. And characters from Kansai are often depicted as crazy for the stuff, hence the hat. The last time I remember the hat being used was in Kamen Rider Double. I love again that the props just
It's
get
always
reused.
throwbacks. Always throwbacks.
By the female lead, Akiko. She was stated to have lived in Osaka before coming to the fictional Futo City, where the show takes place, and is shown wearing it once in the show and once as a child in a flashback during the winter crossover movie with O's. For the tiger outfit, it is a reference to the one baseball. Or a reference to one of the baseball teams of the Kansai region, the Hanshin Tigers, not Henshin, who are based in the greater Osaka area and generally are pretty popular. So I love their like smack you in the face version of telling you where she's from is just putting her in funny hats. That's great.
But people got it right away.
Yeah.
That's even funnier to me that people, a little dumber like us, are just like, oh, look at this stupid hat. And the people that know shit are like, no, idiots.
Yeah.
It's actually a specific call out to where she's from. Anyone that knows anything will definitely laugh at this joke.
That's perfect. Dave says the show basically did the American equivalent of introducing a character with a Texan accent, showing them wearing a cowboy hat and boots in one episode, and then a Dallas Cowboys jersey in the next. Dave. Totally. Yeah. Just like, what is the most stereotypical thing that we can put you in to show that you're from this region? Obviously, you're crazy for takoyaki and tigers. That's awesome. I'm so happy that you wrote in, Dave, because I was super curious about what in the world they were going for with that. And now we know. Very cool.
Dave, do me a favor. We're not going to read it on the next podcast, but since you said you're a newer-ish listener, let us know if you found us from Gotchard or from Geets. I'm just curious. Thank you.
I like it. I like conducting on the fly surveys here.
The people are smoking. He's the one that said long time listener, first time caller. So I want to know how long time listener it is.
He didn't say listener. That. He's a newish listener.
Whatever. It's a freaking American saying. Shut up. I have my cowboy hat on. Let me go.
And our final email this week comes in again from Shane. Another email here. Shane says, first off, apologies for the lack of trivia last time and possibly in the future too. The truth is I haven't been on top of the Gotchard scoop lately because I really wanted to watch the new season of Loki. Okay, I'm going to pause Shane's email here because I have a story about Loki. So I was also excited to watch the new season of Loki. I started it like 2 nights ago and watched the first episode of season 2. It was really good. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I instantly then clicked on the show again to watch the next episode. And I got like maybe, I'm going to say 7 or 8 minutes into the episode. And I'm watching it. And it's like, in my head, it's like recapping what happened in season 1, like the beginning of season 1. But with Loki, they do all these like time jumps and there's all this like alternate reality stuff. I'm like, oh, I bet they're just like going and doing an alternate reality telling of something that happened in season 1. Like, okay, I got it. And the more I watch, I'm like, man, this feels like exactly the scene that happened in the first episode of season 1. Like, what's going on? And it just keeps going on. And I'm like, am I just forgetting? Like, did something change and I'm just forgetting what's going on here? Or like maybe this is a whole different Loki who's going through the exact same thing. And it was about the 8-minute mark where I realized, no, you dumbass, you're watching season 1, episode 1 again because only one episode of season 2 was out so far. So I clicked on it and it started playing season 1 again. And it took me like 8 whole minutes to realize that it was something that I'd seen before. And it wasn't just like a retelling for the second season.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm not a smart man, Toby.
The moral of today's podcast.
Very true. Shade says, looks like there's a lot of cool new things this month, like Loki, the Five Nights at Freddy movie, which we talked about. Sentai is having a crossover, catching up with the boys, because Gen V, the new Spider-Man game, of which I can only watch on YouTube because I don't have PS5. And I even got myself addicted to Marvel Snap. Yes, welcome.
More nerds.
She says, I've been playing for 4 hours straight and I want more. Yeah, I still am completely addicted to Marvel Snap. And I hit Infinite for the first time 2 seasons ago. Because I don't really play enough to like grind out Infinite, because it's usually my like fill 10 minutes here, fill 10 minutes there type game. But I did hit Infinite 2 seasons ago, and I got so freaking close last season, but just didn't have enough time to finish it out. But I'm on my way again this season. But yeah, it's very very fun. Shade says, my God, lots of stuff this month. Hope the other listeners will try to write more emails in my possible absence. This is your encouragement. You don't even need to make super detailed ones like I do. Just write the guys some funny jokes or something. I shall return if anything interesting happens in the show. Now on to the usuals. A recent set leak popped up online showing both Gotchard and Geets posing together. So I guess they're currently filming the crossover movie. And from the leaks, there are also some very interesting chemis that are appearing too. Oh.
It's those stupid fake cards.
Yeah, the ones that
the
don't
EX,
count.
the X Neon, KWA, and Geets ones, I'm sure.
Shade says, the one thing about the movie I'm very curious about, how are they going to balance God in the movie? Yeah, because Geets is just basically God at this point. The movie is literally going to be a crossover between God and a boy with his Pokemon.
They'll make it some... because he met...
No, the end of that is he like ascends, and they have shrines to Geets, and he comes down and grants their wishes.
No, but I don't know. We could... It's like a good Saw movie. You just say, oh, he met Gotchard chasing Hopper 5 hours before he died, and like the movie will be like hours 4 through 2 before he goes away.
Yeah, I do think it has to.
You're right. Just right around it. Around it. No one cares.
Right around it.
Sell some toys.
Everybody wants to see some cool action, and yeah. Shade says, anyway, something pretty interesting about Spanner's actor. Apparently, he lived in Hawaii for 10 years and is fluent in English. On top of being a fan of a few Rider and Sentai seasons, he has also seen Power Rangers and is a fan of Kikaider, which is a toku show about an android that fights other bad androids. It's pretty cool. Which I think is a show that actually aired in Hawaii. I know that there's a lot of like Hawaiian Kikaider fans. There's like a big overlap there, because I think they aired it dubbed in Hawaii specifically, weirdly. In this episode, I especially enjoyed how comically jerkish Spanner was, so much that it reminded me of how Kamen Rider has a history with jerks. Back in the 2000s, there was an influential writer that has a very soap opera style of writing, and in every series he worked in, there's always a character that is a huge jerk. So seeing Spanner in this episode really reminded me of that era in Kamen Rider. Finally, to dial it back to Geets for a moment, I swear I've moved on. A new special episode just came out, and it's the cast in character talking about behind-the-scenes stuff and deleted scenes. So then Shade links to Baroba talking to a staff member and then blowing up Toei Studio. So we'll have to check that out. That is the Geets Extra Emergency Special Delivery Desigras Special.
Ooh.
And not the first time a Kamen Rider has tried to blow up Toei. Apparently, yes, that happened in one of the 0.5 episodes of Geo as well, which I'd forgotten about. Very good. All right, that is our emails for this week. Thanks for everyone for writing in. If you want to join our friends here and send us in an email, send those over to cast@kamenridersucks.com. And with that, we'll jump into discussion of Kamen Rider Gotchard, episode 6. Episode 6. So last time on Gotchard, we had the awesome Wrestler G episode. So there's a lot to live up to here, Toby.
Josh's bar has been moved so high that nothing can possibly compare to last week.
Certainly has. This episode opens, we see kind of an angry woman on the phone. She's saying things like, "What do you mean it's over? It was all a lie." Like she's getting broken up with. And one of the Abyssal sisters shows up and says, he's a terrible man. He's trash. How do you feel? Do you hate him? Hate.
Just like any good friend would do during the breakup. You just say, "Oh, he sucked. He was never any good for you anyway."
You got to be careful about that, though, because then if they get back
together... Because the rebound, when the bounce back happens, then you look like an asshole.
Exactly. Everybody's made that mistake once, and then you learn. You don't go super ham on like, "Oh my God, that person sucked. I'm so glad."
The second time you can be like, "Yeah, that was a bad idea. I respect you for doing it. So yeah, it was definitely a bad idea.
Perfect. Yeah. So this woman has a pepper chemi that she, it gets paired with here, but it gets interrupted by none other than Mr. Spanner. Um, she says, "Who are you?" Mr. Spanner says, "I'm not telling my name to a monster." And then he like fuses a chair together with something else, and then like shoves her out the window.
Makes it like
Uh,
it's like a green cannonball. Just blasts her out the window.
exactly. And he tells her, "There's no beauty in revenge. Live for the future." Which I really liked a lot. I like that he has like a real like moral he gives at the end of his fights. But Toby Spanner starts to leave, and there's someone lurking in the shadows. He has a stalker. And I gotta say, this stalker, this whole episode, this guy, we learn more about him as we go, of course, but he is the biggest overactor that I've ever seen in my entire life, and I love it.
I just like that there's a secret Spanner hater. So like really like we're moving in the right direction here.
Someone else hates him. At one point, this guy is like giving his kind of like I don't know, his villain manifesto about why he hates Spanner,
His
and
origin story.
he's just like thrusting and dancing as he tells the story. Um, if anyone knows the reference in Letterkenny, there's a character named Gail, and she's always like super sexual, and whenever she talks, she's always like slowly grinding. And that's what he reminded me of. Is he reminded me of Gale.
That's a wild comparison, but we'll go with it.
Hopefully, someone out there knows what I'm talking about. Because if they do, they'll be like, "Oh my god, you're so right." Let's see. After that, we cut over to Hotaro. Hotaro's in the family restaurant. He's cutting up some carrots. He's cooking some carrots. He's making one of his perfect dishes. And I noted at this point, he is humming. He's always humming the same song each time.
Have we confirmed
So
if it's the theme song yet or not?
it doesn't sound like the theme song to me, but I recognize it as the last thing that I heard him humming. Like it was distinctive enough that it's like, oh, that's the same thing.
That's
But
his song.
I don't think it's the theme song, but I'd be really cool if it was. But if anyone knows what song he's humming, I would love to know what it is, because it definitely seems like it is, one, intentional, and two, it's always the same thing. We are with Hotaro's monster hunting friend, and basically he feels like I think his mind's about to explode. Basically at this point, he's like, I remember things. I think I do. I don't know. I feel bad
So
for the guy.
at some point, his mid to end game story will be he realizes Hodoro is a Kamen Rider, or he controls the ghosts or the monsters or some adjacency to this. I'm sure.
I hope so. The guy deserves it. Like, he's put in the work here. It's very sad that he doesn't get to know that his friend is a Kamen Rider when his friend does not hide that information from anyone else in his life. Like he does such a terrible job of hiding the fact that he's a Kamen Rider. I feel like this friend deserves to know that he cares so much about these monsters. He deserves to know that his friend is the Kamen Rider. And then coming in for breakfast is none other than, again, Mr. Spanner. He shows up. He sits down, Toby, and he says, "I'm here for breakfast. Make it already." And then, of course, we have a lot of like everyone being like, "Oh my gosh, it's a new friend of Hotaro," and Hotaro having to be like, "He's not my friend." Oh,
Yeah,
gosh, Mom.
he hammers it home so hard, like constantly, just like, no, I don't like him. I don't want him here. I don't want him around. I don't like him. Get away from him.
Right. I feel like this is really the first time that he is upfront with Spanner about not liking Spanner. I feel like before he always like vaguely pretended, and this is the first time he's just like, "No, get this guy out of here. What are we doing?"
I think it's more offensive that Hotaro's mom, this random boy, walks in and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna cook now in your kitchen," and she just goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, honey, go ahead."
He didn't really give her an option to say no. He just started doing it, but then she was very for it. She was like, "Yeah, sure, of course." But he first tries Hodoro's meal, says, I suppose I'll partake. He eats it all. He scarfs it down, but he says it's terrible and you're hopelessly untalented. But then, yes, he makes this like weird ass purple omelet. I don't even know. I don't know if he made it purple just because, he's purple, or if that
That's
is a
pretty clever.
weird Japanese dish that I'm not aware of. But it it looked very weird. I don't think I would want to eat a purple omelet, but apparently it was delicious because everyone loved it.
Of course, because we know he needs to keep flexing on his friend here.
He
They're
does.
like, oh, look at me, I'm so much better. I'm the cook for your girlfriend.
It's so much. He leaves a big tip, it looks like. And then he walks out, and the mom's like, "Does he want a job?" The mom's ready to hire this dude. Like she's actively watching her son. Her son, who is like a star student, wonderful around the restaurant, is actively being like, "I don't like this guy. I don't want him around." And the mom's like, "Screw you, kid. I'm giving him a job." So great. Spanner leaves, and Hotaro runs after him. Specifically, Hotaro says he's going to run after him and tell him off, which I liked a lot. I'm going to give this guy a piece of my mind. Spanner knows he's being followed. He says, hey, why are you following me? Come out from there. Hotaro thinks he's talking about him, but turns out he's actually talking about the stalker again.
Pidgey
And
2.0 was before he turned into a hawk.
I was gonna say it's perfect
I tagged him as Pidgey 2.0, and then he switched, and I was like, this is even better. This is all we needed.
As he said, he comes out, he turns into a Malgam, and it is a hawk. Yeah, which is, I think, one of the cooler looking Malgams for me, because it makes more sense that he's got the extra arms too. Like those fit really well because it has hawk wings and the arms crossed across the chest.
And talons for a face.
Yeah, talons for a face, which is a super cool look. Also, this is an interesting Malgam because depending on the scene, they move where the arms are. So like when we first see him, he's flapping the wings. So the actor's arms are in the wings and the arms across the chest are fake. Later, he's using the arms across the chest, the human looking arms, and the wings are not moving. So it's interesting that they shift around the use of the arms here where they haven't really done that before. Um, the Hulk Malgam tries to attack Spanner. Spanner tells him to aim properly, which I liked a lot. He's just the ultimate jerk. I love how cocky he is.
He's too good for his own good.
He is. And then Hodoro joins in the fight. He uses Wrestler G and Ant Trooper, and he becomes like 3 separate pieces, which was very confusing to me. I don't know why he was not a whole person, but he like has his 3 separate parts attack the Malgam instead of forming a whole person. Very strange. And Hodoro, of course, is questioning about who this guy is. Spanner says he doesn't know who the stalker is. So,
which is the way it works out in the episode. It's a hilarious way to start that because you just think Spanner's being an asshole and like just blowing off like, no, don't worry about it. but as the secret reveals,
yeah,
that we'll talk about in a little bit, it's actually like looking back on that now, it's actually like a hilarious setup for what happens.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, you think he's lying at this point. You think it's like, oh, you have a secret or something, but we'll find out that's not really the case. Back at school, we find out that essentially this person is a rival alchemist to Spanner.
His
name
rogue.
is Yes, exactly. He went rogue. His name is Namar Kazi Bolt. So Spanner and Bolt, which is very funny.
That's a good call.
He
Didn't
lost,
think about
that. He lost the final alchemist test to become like a super rank A alchemist to Spanner. Which I found it very interesting that the final test is like a versus match. Like only one of them passes.
Mm-hmm. Just like Harry Potter. I agree. When they have they have their dumb dueling class.
Oh yeah,
and it's the same thing. It's very this whole academy shenanigans is very Harry Potter like.
You're right.
That's all I'm gonna keep saying until someone says, "Toby, I agree," and then I can stop saying it.
I agree. I'm telling you that
you don't count. You don't count. Okay, I want others to back me on this wild ride.
Fair enough. So this cat lost to Spanner and then got real mad about it. And then from then on, he's been missing, they say. And yeah, it turns out he's just been like stalking Spanner and attempting to murder him, basically, is really what it boils down to. At one point, we see like a flashback where he like goes through the ways he tried to get the jump on Spanner. And Spanner like very very easily prevents all the stuff that's gonna fall on him and like has it fall to the ground harmlessly and stuff like that. Like so like Spanner has had multiple attempts on his life, I guess, recently, and just plays it super cool. No big deal.
It's like the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. You just can't catch that damn bird.
Yep, exactly. Over and over and over again. We get a little scene here where Kudo is sad about dads because she sees a dad playing with his daughter in the park. They're swinging. Uh, I thought the dad and daughter was very cute because when they walk away to go home, they talk about eating pudding and they chant
Pudding,
pudding,
pudding.
pudding, pudding.
I think so. Based off of that's not getting overly dramatic yet, but there's been a lot of Kudo dad drama, at least in her mental aspect of it. So I think they're setting up for her, where I could see her turning amalgam because of the dad anger, rage, fear, whatever you want to call it. So that's gonna be my newest prediction, that she's gonna get too jealous, and Baby Mel's gonna come get her and be like, "Oh, use this Kemi that has dads in it," and then she's gonna get all angry and ragey and have to fight Hodoro.
I love that. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that angle, but that totally could be. I love the idea of a dad Kemi where it's just like she transforms and it's just like he's wearing like a Hawaiian shirt and like white tennis shoes and he's ready to go mow the lawn. It's great. Since Kudo's so sad, Spanner shows up. So I guess I should say Hodoro is like stalking and he hides when he sees the Spanner comes up. Spanner asks her what's wrong, gives her a Kemi, and says, and Kudo says, "Aren't you interested in the Kemis?" And Spanner says that collecting them is his job. He's just not into collecting them for fun, like a certain someone. And there is a hilarious, huge gasp from Hodoro. It's like, "You wound me."
After that line specifically, I said it combinations of the past couple weeks. At this point, I am beyond over the Hodoro Spanner Kudo triangle of non-love. Because it's slowly followed up by Kudo being used as bait again for a monster, which is the other half of the thing that I'm tired of involving Kudo.
Yeah, Kudo, like, he's a very willing Kamen Rider, but he's just not very good at it yet. And it's so interesting that they're pairing him up with Spanner, who is this like just super nonchalant hero. Like he's sort of almost like the prototypical hero. He's like the stereotype of the guy who doesn't look at explosions, right? He's just
exactly just walks off and smirks and looks at the ground.
Perfect at everything and acts like it isn't hard to do. Where Hodoro is the guy who needs constant praise and isn't great at things yet. Constantly is shown up by a young girl who has like a quarter of his powers. But Spanner, his next line made me just want to gag because he tells her, "Cheer up, Kudo. A smile suits you best."
Yeah, see, I'm telling you, I'm over it. I'm over all of it.
There's nothing like telling a girl she should smile more to win her over. Just terrible. But of course, Toby the Stalker is nearby. The Stalker sees this and recognizes that Kudo is Spanner's weakness. So the Stalker flies over, grabs Kudo, and flies away, hawks away. She's in peril. She's in peril.
Always.
And that's gonna drag Spanner into things. Hodoro also, of course, sees this and sees who is hiding out, and instantly calls upon Gold Dash to go chasing after Kudo and the Hawk Amalgam. And Spanner, Toby, has a sick all black motorcycle that he also goes chasing with. Even when it comes to riding cool motorcycles, Spanner is better.
It's just a little bit cooler.
Just a little bit cooler. And also his has to be like a real motorcycle because he doesn't have like a cool Kemi card, right? So it's like he just had to have a motorcycle parked somewhere. which I feel like makes it harder.
And someone's going to write in and go, well, just so you know, that bike is actually from Kamen Rider season 27. It's a prop throwback like all the rest of them. And then I have to get sad.
They only have one bike that they just keep reusing. Um, the Malgam takes Kudo back to the quarry where we always go, but conveniently, it's also apparently the site of their alchemy test. It's where they had their big showdown first. Um, I really liked at this point the Hawk laughs, and he sounds like a hawk when he laughs, which I thought was very, very cool. And he starts to give his big monologue. This is where we fought before, blah blah blah. And Spanner says, "Mind if we get started?" Which is what he told him when he was monologuing
Years ago.
years ago. Yeah, exactly. So uh Spanner hasn't changed clearly. And we have Gotchard transform, and Kudo's getting dropped basically at this point in the air because they have kind of a fight in the air. Kudo's getting dropped, and we use the what I wrote down as the spicy gorilla form. So the gorilla sensei and the pepper chemicard come together to form this new form for Kamen Rider Gotchard, which again is a cool look. I like the vibes. I think all of the Gotchard transformations have been very cool so far.
And to add to my ongoing rage and drama with the show, when they were taunting about Kudo before Spicy Gorilla showed up, Spanner hit Hawkman with, because he said something about like, oh, you know, your girlfriend's in danger, and of course Spanner goes with the seventh grade line of, well, she's not my girlfriend, and gets all
Yeah.
like sassy and pissy about it.
Yeah, he's like, you made a mistake. She's not my girlfriend. It's like, okay, you could just save her, and you don't have to make sure that the things are set correctly. Yeah, she's not my girlfriend, man.
Now I'm definitely gonna fuck you up.
I did think that the Valvrad Malgam like air battle was cool. It was neat that like since Valvrad has the copper the chopper card, he can fly through the air pretty effectively too. So they're just like up in the air doing their little battle. That was pretty cool to see. I think we also got some new music playing under this scene. I didn't recognize it, at least it was the first I'd heard it, which is cool. It's like what the ending music like should be, but we
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, but it isn't. And then I thought the end here was very, very cool. So, we hadn't seen much from Hodoro as Kamen Rider in this fight. It mostly been kind of a Valvrad thing. But Hodoro, as Kamen Rider, does his rider kick, and he kicks Spanner's feet to propel him up for like the big blow. I thought that was super cool.
So explain to me the logic of a bird can fly higher than a helicopter, please.
Well, it's not a bird; it's a Malgam.
But
So
it's a hawk.
it's a Birdman.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a Malgam hawk. How can the Malgam hawk fly higher than a helicopter?
Well, the helicopter, it's like, it's carrying a guy in a suit. I can call it a suit because he made it. We learned earlier. It's got to be pretty heavy, I mean, I bet the helicopter by itself could fly very, very, very high up. But when you pair it with like having to lug a whole human covered in metal, like that's a challenge.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Listen. It's equivalent exchange. That's how alchemy works. He can't make himself lighter. It's just how the helicopter works. But we beat the Malgam. We get the card Hawk Star, so we get to turn into a hawk at some point. At this point, Hodoro is like excited about having worked with Spanner. I think he's like jazzed about their cool like combo kill.
We can be friends. Like I drop kicked you into the sky. We should be best
remember
buds.
that? Also, by the way, drop kicking your friend to propel him further forward so he can do more damage is very wrestling logic too. Like, as long as you hit something else, it won't hurt you when I kick you. So good. I'm gonna jump off this, and as long as I land on another person, it damages them, but it doesn't do any damage to me. But Spanner refuses to shake hands with Hodoro at the end, but he goes over and apologizes to Kudo for kind of her being in that whole mess. So again, Hodoro gets snubbed, Toby.
This boy's trying, But the cool guy is always going to cool guy above him.
Yep. I feel like he should have kept up the vibe of like, I'm gonna give this guy a piece of my mind. But instead at the end he tried to be Mr. Nice Guy again. He gets shown up. He gets shown up.
This is all like when M tries to befriend Hero. And he's just like, shut up, intern, get the fuck away from me.
It is. It 100% is that relationship. Yeah, if Hero was like even more of a dick and even better at being a surgeon. The stalker, of course, is still alive, didn't die, still hates Spanner, is trying to like tell him like, essentially the like, you'll never get away with this. And Spanner asks, who are you?
Again, seems like he's just hammering home like, I'm gonna be a real dick about things.
So I think he's lying here, right? He's got to know who this dude is. He's not an idiot. He's got to remember that he did this alchemy test a year ago and that he beat this dude, right?
So I'm gonna say with the way TV shows work, I don't know now. At first I thought he was being a dick when we got to the point of like him being like, no, seriously, I don't know who you are. Like before that, my note was, this is some real like, I think I couldn't tell you what movie it's from anymore. But like there's that line that's like, for so and so, it was just a Tuesday. For you, it was the worst day of your life.
Yeah.
And that was like the whole vibe of him just being like, I don't know, like I'm just here. This was the worst day you ever had. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man. But I was thinking about it after I watched the episode and we started talking. So at the end of it, Pidgey 2.0 gets the brain wipe. And he's begging and crying and pleading, don't do it. And then they do it, which makes it extra cool, like watching someone beg to not get erased because they know what's about to happen to them.
Yeah.
So when I was thinking about it, I wonder if at some point between the duel that they showed us and the point in life that they are now, I wonder if Spanner got brain wiped once and had to like be reset. And that's why he doesn't remember that guy, because he literally lost all of his memories and then formed new memories. And that's like, he's not being a dick for no reason. He literally has no clue who this guy is.
So that would be awesome. I don't get the sense that this season's writers are clever enough to do that. Like everything's been sort of at face value this season. If this was Geets, I would 100% say like, oh yeah, I bet that that's the angle they're spinning. But here, I don't know. It'd be cool, but I don't know if that's what they're trying to pull off. But I like that angle.
They're just doing stuff this time.
Just doing stuff. I had to look it up. It's like the Mad Men meme where it's like, I feel bad for you. I don't think about you at all. That was sort of the vibe. Like, I don't even think about you at all, man. And then the ending here was great. So yeah, I loved the begging for his memories thing too. They've done some cool, the last two episodes, they've done some very, like, they've had a fun little episode that's kind of been a little, goofy in spots, and then they end it with something that like suddenly feels super real. Like the wrestler G crying for his friend was like, whoa, hit me like a ton of bricks. And then this one was like, oh, this has got like, before they'd played a little bit of the memory erasing, like pretty fast and loose, right? Like, erase his memory. We can't have people knowing that we're alchemists. And this one's like, he knows full well what's coming. He knows the repercussions. He's begging for it to not happen, which made it a lot more serious feeling.
It's basically they had a gun to his head.
Yeah, totally.
And he was like, please don't shoot me. And they're like, no, but we're going to, you know the
deal. You know how this works. Yeah. And then at the end, I loved the Hotaro, staring after Spanner, just fuming about the fact that Spanner got one over on him again. And he says, I want to surpass him in cooking too. Not just now in alchemy. He wants to also become a better cook.
I mean, that's his real thing. He knows like his real life is here. And he's like, no. I'm going to beat him where it really hurts. I'm going to make purple omelets. I'm going to get the girl with the omelets.
Yes, if he could make he would make like an orange and blue omelet or something to match his colors. Yeah.
You know what? Okay, add that to the mental books too, because I could see that happening.
I bet we see that at some point. It's a cool Kamen Rider themed omelet. His family loves it. Kudo swoons.
Everything's right in the world.
Yep. Perfect. So then, yeah, that wraps up Gotchard episode 6. Tell me, how did you feel about episode 6 overall?
With it getting a little more real with these people and their actual lives, like the dude begging at the end, I move forward and I like this series and it feels good. And then every week we spend 5 of my 20 minutes of Hodoro pining away for the girl who vaguely shows interest in him, or at least wants to get to know him as a person. And then we fight with her, what Vibe feels like her ex boyfriend. And then I just get irritated, and I wish they would just stop doing all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. Like, I like the individual characters. Like, all three of them, I think, are pretty interesting. They're all very different and like pretty well, like characterized so far. Like, I know what Kudo's about. I feel like I know what Spanner's about. I feel like I know what Hodoro's about. But yes, the fact that like we're in this love triangle is like the least favorite thing that I'd want all of them to be doing right now. It feels like. Um, so yeah, I wish we would move on from that storyline a little bit, or like figure out like there's another wrinkle to it because of something in Spanner's history or something, right? Like maybe it's not a love thing between him and Kudo. Maybe it's something else that they haven't told us yet. Like I need the next step, I think, in that story already, because it's getting a little old pretty quickly.
It would irritate me just as much, but at least if Hodoro was pining away for Kudo and Kudo was pining away for Spanner and like ignoring Hodoro the whole time, at least that adds a little more drama. But it really seems like none of them give a shit about any of this. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, Kudo seems pretty oblivious. Not oblivious, but like she seems like she doesn't super care about either. Yeah, she seems she's worried about her dad, and
yeah,
she's not really interested in finding love currently. It doesn't appear, which is fine. But yeah, it's like you're right. It isn't a love triangle in the sense that like I love her, she loves him, and you know, it's not requited. It's just sort of like it's a love triangle because he likes her, and I don't like that he likes her, but more I don't like that he likes her more than I like her. It's more of a jealousy thing than it is a love thing, and she doesn't like either of us.
which is why they should be friends. They should bond over their common ground of this girl hates both of us in that way.
They should all bond over their mutual distaste for each other. That's perfect. Maybe that's what will happen. Also, I want I think I'm pretty spoiled by Kamen Rider Geats setting things up and then resolving them so quickly. So I'm to the point now where I don't want very many more scenes where Kudo is like, dads. Like I want that to move along. Like I want her to run into her dad, come face to face with them if we're gonna say he's still alive. I want her to have some sort of confirmation that he's dead if we're going to say he's dead. Like, not saying that can't continue to be a story throughout the season, but like, I don't want it to just constantly be every episode. She has one scene where she's really sad about dads for a while. um, I think that's the thing that will potentially get old. But I think overall, I like the characters. I think they're telling very fun, interesting stories so far. You know, last week was of course awesome. We talked about that a lot. I think the stalker angle here was actually like fun and interesting and new. So I think they're having fun with this season, and I'm liking it so far on that basis. But yes, hopefully the triangle is not super triangular forever.
Make it a dot or a line. Don't keep it a triangle, and
One of the two.
don't make it a square, a pentagon, octagon, any of their shapes either.
Oh
Let's get it to a line or a dot.
yeah, what if what if Hodoro likes Kudo, but Kudo likes Spanner, but Spanner likes Renge, but Renge likes Sabi Maru, but Sabi Maru likes Kudo, or likes Hodoro. Just goes in a
Yeah,
big circle.
let's
That
do
would,
it.
yeah.
You know what? You know what? I take it back. If we can go any shape past a square, I'm back in on this. But square or triangle, I do not approve of.
Perfect. That sounds great. All right, folks. So that wraps it up for us for this week. Once again, if you want to send in some emails, we'd love to hear from you. Cast at commonridersucks.com. And of course, we have a Patreon. We've talked about it a little bit here in this episode, but if you want to check out extra bonus content that we are putting out, right now we are watching through Kamen Rider Xaid in our Watch and React series, where you get to watch the video with us while we watch it, hear our thoughts about it, kind of like a Mystery Science Theater-esque vibe there. You can find all that on our Patreon. We are about halfway through XA. We've watched all of Black Sun as well. You can sign up right now and get access to all that stuff for just $3 a month. It's patreon.com/the Kamen Riders, also linked in the description. So we'd love for you to check that out. You also get access to our Discord where you can chat with us and we can talk about all kinds of nonsense, like Disney Kamen Rider belts and random punk covers of Kamen Rider songs, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, so real quick. So if you're listening to this podcast, I want everyone to go to the YouTube channel Seventh Vampire. I think it's just one dude that does a bunch of instruments or does like instrumental programming plus plays guitar. He seems to put out either an anime theme song or a Kamen Rider theme song video every couple days of a quick cover. And for as much as I love the My Chemi Story song by Back On, I think they are, this dude's cover is like 20 times faster and more punky and more Toby music.
It's good, yeah.
And they also have a very hardcore, screamy cover of Trust Last from Geats. And those are the two main ones I found. There's a bunch of other ones like World's Worst Show, Kuga, and some other stuff. But the covers are all fantastic. And I want everyone to go check out the channel Seventh Vampire if you're listening to this and say the Kamen Rider sent you. Because that's always funny to me when people post random things like, oh, I got here from so-and-so. I just want to see it happen.
But shout out to them either way, because yes, very, very good stuff. And clearly a fan of the same things that we're a fan of. So. All right, so that's going to do it for us. We'll be back next week to talk about episode 7. Very excited to see more of this. And we hope that you join us for that as well. But until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.